Hey guys, welcome. So today, in this particular session, we are going to see more about inputs and outputs. So input and outputs is, you know, nothing but how the directives communicate with the parent-child relationship, and how, if at all, there are any callbacks to be given, or if at all there are parameters to be passed to any kind of a directive. How is that particular thing handled in Angular 2 is nothing but what we are going to see into inputs and outputs. So I've just created a sample app for you guys. Please don't worry about the code; it is there in the Git account. So you please be cool about it. So over here, if you can see what I'm trying to, if you can see on the screen, there is nothing but a parent component, and this particular parent component is nothing but our hello world component, and the hello world component is having this particular template inside it. At the same time, there is nothing but a child component, so hello world is going to have a component which is nothing but this particular child component, and this child component is having a content which is there over here. So what I really want to do is, whenever I type anything over here, this particular value I have to pass it to the child. And when my child, write or anything I write inside my child component, I have to pass it to the parent component. So this is what we are going to achieve in inputs and outputs. So if you can see over here, I have just created child and component and hello world component out here. So over here, for this particular uh, input text, we're going to use ng model, that is two-way binding. So for that particular reason, inside app module, I've included form modules over here, and inside my declarations I'm using hello world component and child component, so that my ng model is knowing what modules are we going to use and what components we're going to use. So we have to register it with Angular 2 module. So I just close it. Moving ahead, firstly I'm going to see that how, if when writing from a parent child data transition is something which we're going to see in first. So firstly, I'm just going to jump directly into my, child component. Okay. So first of all, so when there is something called as inputs inside my component decorator. So here component is nothing but my directive. Over here I'll say inputs, and I want the inputs as nothing but parent data. Okay, I'll just put a comma over here. So okay, so input is nothing but it is going to be something as the signature, like whenever this particular child component is used, and if at all you want to pass any value to this particular component, this is nothing good. This is going to be the attribute how you're going to use it, right? And that's the reason we are declaring it into the decorator under the property called inputs. So over here it is nothing but the parent data. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, over here I'll just write create a public, you know public property to hold this particular value which is going to be passed to this particular directive. I'll just create a public property called, string, and that is nothing but a parent data. Okay, over here. And then what I'm going to really do is, whatever I'm going to be passing from outside, I'm going to be printing it over here. So I'm just going to interpolate my parent data. This is going to be what my parent is going to pass to me. So it is much more simpler, right? So this is what I'm going to do into my child. So now let us just implement this parent data into my parent component, that is hello world component. So if I just go to my hello world component, as I say, there is some input which is been given to my, hello, like child components decorator, that is inputs, and the name of that input is nothing but parent data. We're going to use the same name over here. So how I'm going to use it, and I'm going to say nothing but parent data. and this particular parent data is going to be having some value which I am going to pass. So what I really want to pass over here is nothing but the value of this particular input. So this is how we're going to do. We are going to use a reference over here. I'll just put a hashtag and I'll just put a reference name that is nothing but input over here. My ng model is going to be put inside this particular text property, but this is not something which I need to worry of now. I'll just put it over here and I'm going to access it via my reference, and I'm just going to put as as my value. So if I save it and when I refresh my code, everything seems to be fine. So let me just start typing GAURANG. You can see I am successfully passing the data from my parent to my child, and whatever I write, I'm able to see it over here. So this is the one-way communication which we have seen. The rest is going to be something called from child to parent. So from whenever I want to pass my data from a child to parent, I need to use something like I need to emit some kind of event. Let me just go into my child component. Let us see how are we really going to do that. So firstly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a event, and that is nothing. I just write a public property, and I'm just going to say it is nothing going to be a child event, some kind of event, and it is going to be a declaration of a class called event emitter. Event emitter. It is going to emit a string value, and I just instantiate this particular class. So I am not having definition for event emitter. From where I'm going to get it, I'm just going to copy it. It is there inside Angular core. If I save it, I get the definition over here. What I'm going to do is again is nothing but I have a text binding ng for ng model. So I'm going to have updated value of the value of input over here. Over here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put a hash reference input, a reference over here. So I'll just put as input, and I'm just going to write a key up event over here, so that every time a change happens to my particular input type, it should it should raise an event, and that is I'm just going to it should call this particular function, and that function is nothing going to be on change function, which I'm going to implement on change function. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to access the input type, and it's going to be nothing but the value. I'm going to copy this and I'm just going to put it over here on change, and then it is going to be having a property value, and it is going to be of type string, and over here I'm going to emit this particular child event which I've already created. So I'm going to access it with this dot this dot child event dot emit, and what I'm going to emit this, and it is going to be with respect to the value which I'm passing over here. So what I'm doing it over here is I'm just accessing the value. I'm creating a key up event so that anything is typed on this particular input tag, it will raise this particular callback. That's nothing but on change, and from on change I'm emitting this particular child event. So over here in the decorator, I also need to say nothing but outputs, and my output is going to be having something called this particular event emitter instance, and that is going to be nothing but my child event. So just to implement this particular thing, I'll go to my parent component, right? And over here I this is nothing but the event, so I'll wrap it under the square bracket, and I'll put the child event over here because it is given inside the decorator. It is going to be the child event, and this particular child event is going to be having a right side. And over here, what I'm just going to do is it is going to be having a callback function over here. So right now I'm going to show you a way wherein I'm not going to write a callback, rather I'm going to write it uh, RHS directly over here in line. I don't want to write a function. So what I'm going to do is nothing but, I'm going to write a public, nothing but child text. So child text is nothing going to be a string. So I just need to equate this particular child text to whatever value the event emitter is emitting. So I'll just put it like child text is equals to nothing but dollar $event. So dollar $event is nothing going to be the value which I am emitting from here, and that value is nothing going to be whatever I'm going to be typing into this input field. So if I just go over here, it is quite clear, and what I'm going to do is I just need to interpolate it at this particular place. If I just put it down over here and let me just refresh stuff. Okay, so let me just see whether parent I am writing it and I am anyways achieved it. Let me write something over here so that whatever I'm writing over here, it should directly start appearing over here. I'll just see KAR. So you can see whatever we wanted to achieve, we have achieved it with respect to inputs and outputs. And thanks a lot, guys, for watching the video. Thank you.